So, welcome to episode 39 of Fables from the Pickled Quipper. Does anyone have good notes from the last game?
We had breakfast. Silvarius picked up the Rothade named Kraelth with a cart. And then we got back to the York fortified place and we found that the young outcast orc who was by himself. And we talked to him for a while. We walk a bit longer and get back to the bridge, and then we find another blue dragon that starts speaking to us in freaky deaky draconic, and that's where it left off.
So, let's go back to the chasm in the underground road to Badger Down. So, this large blue serpent uncoils and says,
I was wondering when you'd appear.
what do you do?
How much light is that light putting off?
So 20 bright, 20 dim. So you can't from where you are, like you can barely make out the edge of the chasm. From you can kind of see where it kind of vaguely drops off. And on the other side it's the same. You can't actually, you know that there's that chasm between you with the thin bridge, because you've walked across there before. You can't actually see the chasm. You can just feel the weight of the empty space.
Is he lit up?
Yeah, he's right next to, he was curled up next to another, there's a light right sort of towards the back of him there. They'll kind of shrinks towards the back.
I'm going to, not quickly or anything, but I'm going to try to ready myself for combat.
Okay. Describe what that looks like.
Oh, I mean, I'm not like actually, I mean, being my character, I would have had my bow out anyway.
Sure.
So like I'm basically just gonna kind of like, you know, not like put my arm up or anything, but sort of like do like the gunfighter quick draw like finger thing, you know, like kind of like just put my hand down and just sort of like wiggle the fingers and get ready to draw quickly if necessary. And then I'm gonna like slowly, if I can, like I'm not gonna like this is gonna be super slow. I'm just gonna like slowly start taking steps towards where I can get into the dark.
After its voice echoes across the cavern towards us, Silvarius is just kind of in a just in a volume for the party to hear.
Apparently, you was expecting us, or at least waiting.
And he's gonna start slowly, kind of with his shield and sword, not aggressively, just resting at his side. He's gonna step forward a little bit.
Cosette's gonna step in front of the kid a little bit.
Okay.
What?
You hear the faint tinkle of scale mail as Claire starts to shiver.
Sure. That makes sense.
What does he
I'll
look
check
like
that.
exactly?
So make a perception check.
Okay.
Anyone who wants to sort of try and get a better look can do that. That's fine.
Ooh,
Perceptione.
24. Natural 20.
16.
Okay, normal. All right, here we go.
I will take that for my starting roll.
I bet.
I started off with a nice 5.
Got a 26.
What's the point in even rolling natural 20s? I don't know.
Aww. So, Varius, you are fairly familiar with Dragonkin. And the first thing that you take away is that this is not a true dragon, but some sort of related kin. Exactly what you're not sure, but you know it's not a true dragon. Bardor and Eska, as you're looking over, you can see it has 6 pairs of legs. At first, you think that there's like a ripple in the scales that you think is just being caused by the flickering candlelight. But as you look closer, you realize that there's actually some sort of energy coursing through the blue scales. And you actually, I would say you both probably hear this between the crit and then just a 26, which is just very high. You hear faint crackling and get a slight, just a whiff of ozone in the air. And so as you step forward, the creature also takes a step.
No introductions?
Is that in Draconic or is that in Common?
This is still draconic.
Okay.
So yeah, to the rest of you, this sounds like very guttural tone. It's not. I mean, I think you probably would have heard some of it, but it's just not familiar to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he does look pretty directly at you, Silvarius, given your scaly nature.
Eska actually takes a step back.
This isn't where we parked our car.
Blue section, row 15.
This is the blue section.
We are looking for a Chevy Dodge. Or a Ford Dodge.
Yeah, that's better.
A Sylvie Durango.
Oh,
Could I do primeval awareness?
yes. Aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. So you get elemental, fiend, and undead.
When it steps forward, Kedox takes flight and lands on the center of the bridge. And when it lands, it kind of puts its paw up on a little rock, and a bright light emanates from it,
Nice, nice.
illuminating the entirety of the, I would say, the
Yeah.
center.
And he doesn't seem too put off by it. You see him kind of blink a little bit, but
No need for your little friend to come to harm.
And Draconic back. Gorn certainly did not want to head that direction. Well, then, what is it you want with us?
First, introductions. Your name.
And why should we give that to you? And he's standing tall and proud.
as you sort of straighten just a little bit more, even though you're probably like at 98% already, you see this creature rises. It like slithers almost snake-like and is able to pull itself up to where just its back two pairs of legs are supporting its weight. And so it ends up at maybe close to 20 feet tall. And it looks down this large dragon-like head.
We must observe the niceties. It is just what is proper, Dragonborn.
He speaks in common. If we are to observe niceties, we should include the rest of the Hand of Aegis.
He kind of looks a little perplexed. And then Draconic says,
I do not speak that tongue. I would not let it sully my mouth.
And in Draconic, he says back, it is a ghastly language, but it is convenient. However, we are the Hand of Aegis. I am Silvarius.
I am Lindraj. Tell me, Silvarius, did you slay the blue worm?
And you see him take another couple of big sniffs when he says that. And Eska and Bardor, you see ripples of blue on the scales again.
He steps forward. Just a bit more. It came to that. And he just waits on that.
And there's a very painful pause. And you see, you can all see now as it gets a little closer to the brighter light coming from the rock by Kedox's feet. It's giving it a little bit of creepy uplighting at the moment. Can't see its eyes very clearly, but its throat is quite nicely lit up, and you see some rippling in its throat. And then it opens its mouth, and
Good. You have saved me quite an inconvenience.
A little bit of tenseness from his grip on his sword kind of eases just a little bit. An inconvenience, you say? Care to elaborate?
He was an interloper. Not from here. Found a way in through the chasm. Started pilfering the trade route. Made people unhappy to see me around. I defended myself. I tend not to hunt along this passage. I just loot what dies from other causes and search for bigger prey. But the little one drew attention to me. Some search parties came. I believe he had amassed a small hoard. I haven't found it yet. I can still smell him on you. You took scales?
you sense that was sort of a question.
Sovaris just nods.
For slaying such a beast, that is acceptable.
An earned trophy.
I have some of my own.
And he does another slightly sickening grin. Again, it's tricky. Not being able to see all of his face well lit up is it doesn't make it more attractive, certainly. And it actually steps all the way up into the light so you can see its face properly lit up. And it kind of leans down towards Kedox.
Interesting. Little dragonkin.
Sovaris snaps his fingers. Well, I guess he doesn't snap his fingers because he's holding his shield and a sword.
He uses his third hand to snap his fingers.
Can you do that with your mind?
Yeah, I think that's I would say that's fine just as a mental thing.
Okay. Kedox just kind of and like kind of fades out, almost like trying to describe it, like a tiny little flash and what looks like a little bit of frost.
And he kind of looks at you quizzically and says,
Ah, I knew he didn't smell right.
Not a dragonkin, but clever knows you have. You look of dragon, but clearly you are not.
I am a Behir. Child of Dragon and the Stormlord.
and he just like almost yawns, and as he does, you see lightning spark in his mouth.
Does the mentioning of Bahir, is there a degree of common knowledge living in this world that I would know?
Make a let's make a history check. Eska, you could also make one.
History.
15.
12.
So Varys, you you have heard of Behirs. Eska, you have not.
I mishear him and think he's just saying that I think he's saying I be here.
Right. Exactly. But he be not say that. Instead, yes, he says he's a Behir. Yeah, they are very powerful creatures. That's the first thing that comes to mind for you, Silveris. A draconic element to them, but are not, like I said, not strictly dragons. Behirs are known to stalk in caverns, but also mountainous areas too, but often found underground. A pretty prodigious ability to climb. And so, it's not unusual for people to find them clinging to the tops of caves and that sort of thing. When they want to really go fast, they just tuck their legs in and slither. Because they can go faster than regular walking.
Ah, just like Silverius.
Indeed. You would know
Rich.
that they swallow things whole, as a rule. Perhaps most importantly, they are a creation of the ancient war between giants and dragons, and were brought about to be a foil to dragons, despite their large, slithery, scaly nature.
Are they generally perceived as just like hyper intelligent creatures with ranging from good to bad, kind of? There's like no set like.
They're typically not known to be great, but they are, known to be smart enough to hold conversation, and they're not lacking in intelligence. Claire, you notice next to you, Vil has just sort of somehow managed to get to about your height through a series of crouching and stooping, and would be largely invisible behind Cosette at this point.
Claire envies his position behind Cosette.
So, Dragonborn. What now?
A very good question. It seems that we solved a problem for you. And we have no personal quarrel with you. And I would assume you do not with us, for we would have crossed that bridge by now.
He looks a bit confused for a second, trying to figure out which bridge you meant. Make a persuasion roll with advantage.
12.
I have no quarrel with you, and you have indeed done me a service.
He takes another sniff.
That rothe smells good.
And you see a little bit of saliva sort of just drip out the side of his mouth, and it crackles as it hits the ground. He sort of wiggles his nose a little bit.
I will let you pass. I would recommend not bringing your rothe through here again anytime soon. I'm hungry.
Lindraj just goes to the edge here, sniffs, and says,
Oh. You left a meal down there for me.
smiles, and slithers over the edge. And you see, as he disappears with alarming pace, scurrying down the cliff into the chasm, and very quickly out of sight.
And Sylvaria turns back around and at a brisk march comes up to the Kraelth and says to everybody, "We have our passage. Let's not waste it." And he grabs Kraelth by the reins, make his way across the bridge, not waiting for the others exactly yet.
I'm like sprinting forward to the edge, basically, and like not getting too close. I do pull an arrow, and I'm like kind of trying to suss out if he went, like, since in theory he went down that way. I'm trying to see if I can see him.
You cannot.
Claire kind of just lets out like a huge breath of relief, and then she reaches out and just kind of puts her hand gently on what is it,
Yeah.
Vill's elbow, and just asks him, "Are you all right?"
No.
Well, it looks like Silvarius handled it well, so we'll just get out of here as fast as we can, all right? And she kind of gives him a little nudge to follow everybody.
What even was that?
I honestly don't know. I didn't see it very well, but it's gone, and I think we should just get out of here as fast as we can. We can ask Silvarius when we're in a safer spot.
Right. Okay. I like safe. Severus, make an animal handling check, please.
12.
Okay. Kraoth is hesitant at first. But, as is often the case with Severus, you exude confidence and don't take no for an answer. And he falls in line pretty quick.
Gonna hoof it across. Basically, stand guard.
Okay.
Is
As you
this area still lit up?
There's a rock on the bridge that's just beaming.
All right. Well, I'm getting out of that. I'll stand on the edge, so I disappear.
Yeah, you guys can't see Bardor. Well, you're in dim light now from the other thing, but you're probably still.
Dag nabbit.
There's just a lot of lights around.
People in your lights.
The king has no clothes.
Yeah, right. All right. So I step over a little bit more so I'm not in any light.
As you sort of cross the bridge, you look down. One, it's just impossible not to look down because you just saw this incredibly dangerous creature go down there. And so this is basically as all of you are crossing the bridge. The fighting instinct in you is to know where the enemy is. But as you look down, it is dizzying. There is just, depending on for those who have no ability to see in the dark, you have like 20 feet of light that's being cast pretty brightly from this rock, although obviously because of where it is, it doesn't go down as well as you'd like, and then there's just darkness. You remember it took a long time after you finally managed to push that dragon's body over the edge for it to stop making noise on its way down.
Is Vil following us?
Yes.
I'm gonna kind of like lead him.
Yeah, he
Yeah, if Claire wasn't leading him, then
Yeah, he there's a slight feeling of deja vu here, as Claire seems to have found another Klingon. He gets to the edge and like gets down on all fours and like creeps to the edge and just like peers over, looking to see.
Claire looks over her shoulder and sees him doing that. She'll scurry back and kind of tug at his elbow again and just be like, no, you don't want to do that. Come on.
Uh,
And then he doesn't get up. He just stays on all fours and creeps slowly over the bridge. Cassette, Esk, are you crossing?
Mm-hmm. She won't start to cross until Aska comes up, though.
Yeah, Aska will follow behind you, and you see her kind of drying her forearms and hands, and then just pulling her bow and keeping an arrow nocked as she kind of edges forward. And she will follow you with bow drawn, just as a precaution.
Escabador, make perception checks for me.
20 for what it's worth.
17.
You listen. That's it. You just don't hear anything. Bridge is negotiated. You can continue on your path.
I was trying to look up the name for that that kind of strip of cloth that hangs down from the front of your belt.
Mm-hmm.
A loincloth doesn't feel right when you're... But it's effectively where a loincloth would be, but...
Right.
I feel like loincloth is something you always say when you're talking about just wearing a loincloth, but I don't know. I was looking up the glossary of medieval clothing terms, but it wasn't one of the ones it mentions.
But I don't see anything that really covers that as far as the terminology.
Yeah, it feels like one of those things that should have a name.
Yeah.
Maybe Liz knows. She's the kind of person that would know something like that. I figured you all Liz were my best bets of knowing. Eli, do you know what that is?
What's that?
The dangly bit that dangles down from your belt between your legs? No, I should be more specific here. I'm talking clothing.
Do you want like American slang or?
So yes, this is a clothing. It's just that kind of piece of cloth that sort of hangs between your legs. But not a I'm thinking not a loincloth, because usually loincloth is something that you refer to just by itself.
It's probably the closest thing, though, to be honest, I'm seeing.
Yeah.
In the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they called it a sock.
A breechcloth.
That's it.
A breechcloth?
Breechcloth.
Yes.
A form of loincloth, usually a narrow rectangle, passed between the thighs and held up in front and behind by a belt. Often the flaps hang down in front and back.
Breech clout.
Oh. Oh, is it pronounced breechclout?
Both. It's breechcloth or breechclout.
Oh, I'm totally calling it a breechclout.
Love you.
Good work. That's exactly what... That's what Eska was drying her hands on.
Mm-hmm.
To the surface. And don't spare the Rothe.
I mean, you're still at a day and a half out from the surface.
Whatever. To the surface.
Righto.
I will wait until everybody passes through, and then I will follow behind. But since they can't see me, I will speak. Say, coming behind you. So I hope to not freak everybody out. I will say as I'm catching up to Silvarius and be like, what was that? I did not sense any form of dragon in the area. Other things that are not appealing, but not a dragon.
First of all, what else have you sensed?
Some undead, some elementals, and fiend. I don't know how close they are.
Still, reasons to stay ready.
Yes, it is.
That was a Bahir, a form of offspring of dragon and the storm giants, not to be messed with. Not saying I did not have confidence in ourselves, but they are intelligent enough to be bargained with.
Is it going to pose an issue?
Judging by our conversation, it should not. I would not, however, take our time. It was hungry, and it had a distaste for the kind that was the blue dragon, but it should keep it fed. Certainly, long enough for us to leave. If you see it, I would not recommend firing.
Okay.
You said there was a bargain? What was the bargain?
It did not enjoy the presence of the invading or the blue dragon that we encountered. It was not from here. The Bahir, this was its territory. I explained. We were the solution to its previous problem. Fortunately, it liked that answer enough. I did not have to give it Eska for us.
Well, if it's still hungry, it's good to know we have a plan B.
Sylvaris looks at the Rothe also.
You also see Vil, who looks slightly alarmed.
I'm gonna approach Vil real quick.
He does not look less alarmed.
Like marches right up, like staring at him. He's like,
Did you know of this creature?
No.
"Do I believe him?"
Roll an insight check.
Okay.
7.
Yeah, no, he's you don't know a lot of orcs or even half orcs. Have a hard time reading his face, but you know, a little time you spent with him, he's really given you no reason to doubt anything he said.
And he turns back around.
He just leans over to you, Claire, and says, "What do you really give the elf to the here thing?"
She just kind of chuckles and whispers to him. Well, I think he might like to at some times, but no. Sylvarius is much softer than he looks.
I didn't know he could joke.
I think it's a new skill.
Oh. He's still got some work to do. Or maybe it's just I don't know him yet.
He takes a bit to warm up to you.
Okay. He looks fractionally relieved, but still very duck out of water. So a little bit of time passes.
I'll take the lead as we move along.
Okay.
Keox comes back too.
Sure. Yep. Bardo, go ahead. Roll survival as you're looking for a good place to bed down for the night.
Okay.
I presume nothing's gonna surprise us, but I do my usual regard.
20.
Okay. Even for you, it's a little disorienting down here. And so you can't, it's really hard to keep track of where the day should be. But just judging by the general weariness in your bodies, you feel like it's time to get off your feet. And you look around and you see a little ways off the road, for want of a better word. It's not, it's not really a road down here, but off the path, you see a fairly gentle slope that leads up to a little sort of elevated ledge. Maybe it's about 20 feet off of the road, and looks like it would probably sit a good 10, maybe even 15 feet up. So it would give you a good sort of elevated position. You feel like that's a pretty good spot.
Okay.
You honestly can't tell if this is, if you stopped here at any point. It doesn't really even look familiar right now, but I mean, you can see a blue flame ahead of you and a blue flame behind you, so you're assuming that you're still on the right path.
This isn't the place where we fought the bullet, is it?
No, it doesn't look like it.
Okay. Okay. So as I'm kind of assessing the area, I'm going to do primeval awareness again.
Okay. So you spend a second and focus. Put a hand to the ground. Just sort of feeling. This time you get just elementals.
That's what I'll say. I'll just say just elementals now. So like basically not to anybody in specifically, but just kind of like just out loud and see if whether anybody responds or not.
And so far, it just says less of a concern, but still a concern. We should have watchers, as per usual.
Yeah, I agree. I unsling my pack. Start to stretch.
Okay. Who's gonna take first watch as you get settled in?
I'll do that.
I don't mind helping, but particularly bad at watching, so. As long as you're okay with that, I'll keep you company.
Yeah, Claire should also be paired with someone a little more perceptive than her.
Yeah.
Our group is generally pretty bad, aren't they?
All that.
The good news is I can
know
take
that
the
I'm
last
not
3
good.
watches.
So Eska will be able to be friends with the rest of you.
Yeah, maybe, I suppose. I suppose if I guess you could potentially pair, like you could double up Silverius and Claire so that we get a double on that one, and then I should be good after that, if that makes sense.
I think.
Sure.
Okay.
Because I mean, otherwise, yeah.
So I'll go with
otherwise
Barter
somebody
first.
else. Otherwise, somebody else will have to take a lone watch.
So, getting up on that ledge, is that hard to do? Is it big enough to actually like get on there and everybody to be up there?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a high ledge that does it block view from the line of sight from kind of like down below, or is
Yeah,
it like
if you sort of pressed all the way up against the wall there, you could be out of vision of the road, especially sitting down.
So as everybody starts settling down for sleep and resting and stuff, I'm just gonna snack on some stuff and just kind of settle in for the watch.
before Silvarius goes to sleep, he's just going to instruct Kedox to kind of like nestle in between some, I guess, if you can find like a little spot to just kind of nestle in between, but also just keep an eye out. So kind of like hiding as a little celestial dragon can. And if it happens to see something, to gently alert me.
Okay. Understood. So we got Bardor and Cassette. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. If you'll both roll perception for me.
Ooh, 15.
I think you managed to roll that before I even said it.
I know. I was like, well, that was really quick.
I was really ready for it.
You were.
Perception, you say?
Si, senor.
24.
A quiet and relatively painless couple hours goes by. Do you guys talk much, or is it mostly just silent vigil?
I will take a sip from my flask and offer it to Cosette.
She takes a sip, but if you offer her another one, she probably wouldn't.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know that she really has a whole lot to say.
Well, guess who's Mr. Talkie? So yeah.
This couple may not get their own sitcom. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah, no. So I just sip every so often off of that, and then just pull out the good old pipe of smoke monsters.
Nice.
And I take some chances at blowing the Bahir, adding it to the repertoire of odd creatures that I've seen.
Sure.
So
Make a performance check, please.
ooh, baby. Charisma. That's where I'm a Viking.
Yep.
Oh, a natural 20 down to an 18.
just that happened to be looking the other way. So
Yeah, right.
what a shame.
Cassette's looking the other way, but Vil briefly turns over and looks up, and above him sees this smoky, very well created Bahir. And he doesn't scream, but you can just see him go just like completely stock still, just pure terror on his face. And then it slowly dissipates and he sort of starts breathing again. And he doesn't even look over to you or anything. He just sees it, and then as it dissipates, it's almost like he just decides that he was dreaming and turns over. But you did cause your young orc friend a heart attack there, so well done.
Friend. Bardur is pleased with himself.
Yeah, really,
Um,
Cassette should just be watching Bardo to make sure Bardo doesn't kill him in his sleep.
That's true.
Oh yeah, she's still like keeping an eye on him.
Mhm.
Okay. So the end of your watch comes about. You can wake up with the next duo.
I'll crawl over to Claire, I guess, and just kind of like lightly tap her on the cheeks and be like, "All right, lass, your turn."
She kind of grumbles and groans for a minute, and then yawns really big, and manages to kind of bleary-eyed get up.
Like I guess I'll just shimmy over and just nudge him with my foot, and just
A soft nudge.
yeah, I'm not gonna like kick him in the ribs or anything, but just like soft nudge and be like, "You're up."
You just hear this kind of low guttural growl. His eyes open. He sits up a little bit more.
I just walk away.
Classic.
Yeah, just gonna lay down and I set my stuff and go to sleep.
Now that could be a sitcom.
True.
I want them to be like roommates in a small New York apartment or something.
Yeah. It's gonna be a little awkward though, because like the camera angles, because I'm like 4 feet tall and he's like 8 feet tall, and it's like,
They made it work in twins.
yeah, right.
Claire, Silveris, go ahead and make perception checks for me. Silveris will be at disadvantage.
Okay.
But you can go ahead roll for what's his face as well. Kedox. I know words.
Is Krelth? Krelth's not with us up here, is he?
No, I guess not. He would probably be. You'd have to have left him down. Well, the cart would have to have stayed down, but he could get up there. Rothe are adept at getting through rough terrain.
I would have probably figured that we should have kept Krelth nearby.
Okay.
A 9.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. Kedok 9, Silvarius 4.
And Claire is a 15.
So, Claire, as you are, well, do you guys talk at all? How do you set up for your couple hours?
Unless Silvarius asks her a direct question, Claire is probably just going to kind of be blearily staring around.
In this environment, Silvarius probably would not bring up too much. At one point, he kind of like he pulls his bag up and he like kind of going through some of the stuff, and he pulls out the lyre that he had that was attached to it and just kind of looks at it for a little bit, and then just puts it back down, back in the case, and slides the bag to the side and just kind of stares off, trying to maintain focused on perceiving things very poorly. But nothing much to say.
Claire, about an hour in. You're just sort of like almost drifting off a little bit. And you're just sort of staring at the wall on the opposite side of the cave. You're like, did that just move? That would be weird. Rocks don't move. So you sort of rub your eyes a little bit, take another look. Everything looks still. And then, like 10 feet from where you thought you saw it, you see more. There's like a ripple in the rock. It's tricky because it is dark. But you see pop out of the rock a large stone head. Doesn't seem to be looking at you. Just sort of like pops out and kind of looks either way round the looks sort of up and down um the tunnel. Stops for a second and kind of looks at the cart that it can see there. And as it stops, you see another sort of shimmer in the rock. A second head pops out next to the first one. And they both just sort of look at the cart, look at each other. And you hear something that sounds a little bit like rocks being banged together. A little bit like coconuts, but with rocks instead. Do you happen to speak any form of elemental language?
Yeah,
I
because
guess.
I have Sylvan and Celestial.
Okay. This sounds like nothing. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that you saw what appears to be two stone heads talking to each other, you wouldn't ever think that it was conversation.
She freezes and slowly moving to grip the holy symbol at her neck, she casts Sending to Silverius and says, "Don't move. Strange creatures behind you look like rocks."
So Varys, you received that message. What do you do?
Claire hears back in her head.
Helpful.
And
Sounds about right.
How many words was that?
One. I think it was just one.
Yeah, one.
One long word.
it was Draconic for.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, you didn't understand that then, Claire.
He pays heed and he just starts like only moving his eyes, trying to like see something. I assume that these rocks are still just kind of clacking.
Yeah, you can hear that too now.
Maybe at this point, yeah, if they're
Yeah, Claire gestures heavily with her eyeballs where they are.
That's a talent right there.
Make a performance check, I guess.
It's awesome.
That could have been worse. A
Yeah.
12.
It's respectable. Yeah, you kind of know where she's gesturing towards. You can see her eyes bugging out, as is their way.
his grip on his sword just kind of intensifies, but he will pay heed to her warning.
So the clicky clacking carries on for like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then the second head, Claire, that you can see sort of like disappears back into the rock. And then you see a slight shimmer like 30 feet down the tunnel. Very quickly. And then the first head kind of looks around and you sense almost a slight shrug from the rock. And then the second head shifts back in and disappears from view.
Once again, she just kind of sags in relief. Just whispers over to Silvarius. What were those?
Did I ever get a good sight of those?
Yeah, I think you probably would have been able to sort of slowly shift your head around to see.
I'm beginning to think the elementals Bardo was sensing earlier.
I think I'm beyond ready to get out of these caves. And she just kind of shudders.
Frankly, I am too. They keep giving more than we ask.
And Kedox heads towards the direction that they were heading and just lands about maybe 20 feet, 30 feet away from me and stares that direction.
He doesn't see anything out of the ordinary down there. Seems just like the tunnel's gone back to normal.
He's just gonna kind of go over to the edge a little bit and he's crouched on one knee looking over and looks down at the cart. Kind of just observes the area, looks back at Claire and just nods in a seemingly everything's okay fashion. And he heads back to the edge of the wall, kind of props up against the wall.
Yeah, and Claire just kind of straightens up a little bit and looks a little more alert than at the beginning of her watch.
Gotcha.
She's paying attention a little bit more now.
Okay. The rest of your watch passes without incident.
Eska's turn at this point, right?
Yeah.
So Varys goes over to Eska and just gives her a firm boot.
Jesus. Sound effect and everything.
I can't believe that I am the nice one.
Yeah, nor can any of us. But here we are.
Where do
Yeah.
you
Varys-
kick her?
Kind of right on the hip.
Okay. You do hear a bit of an involuntary gasp of pain. Still recovering from that dragon attack.
A loud gasp.
Just kind of like a and a wince, and her hand goes to her side.
He'll crouch down. And he puts his finger up to his mouth.
It's your turn.
Eska gives him a look that is empty of friendliness.
He stands up and he turns and he starts to walk away and he stops and he turns his head back. He's,
One thing I wanted to tell you. Nice breechcloth.
and he turns back and keeps walking away.
In his head, he just hears her say, just quietly, "Sleep well."
Before Claire beds down, she will inform Eska that they saw what they think were some kind of little rock elemental, and that if you stay quiet, they go away. They seemed harmless, at least from a distance.
Eska nods and rests her bow down in front of her, just ready in case. Not that she senses it would be super useful against rocks, but you know. And she says gently, you actually sleep well.
Go ahead and make a perception roll for me as you get settled in.
As Sylvaris is laying down also, while he's looking for this, Kedox does fly over and lands adjacent to Eska, not staring at her, but like on watch with her.
13.
You can make a roll for Kedox as well.
Can you make a roll for Kedox if I've strangled Kedox?
Might be at disadvantage.
Well, with the 16, you know that you're being strangled. So that's good.
Kedox has a good view because I'm swinging Kedox around by the neck. So, good 360 view of the cave.
As his head's moving back and forth, he thinks the rocks are moving.
Yeah.
So you have probably a good 4 hours here. What do you do with your time?
For the first 3 hours, she knows she's got to be a little bit careful, so I think she would take a somewhat meditative stance and just try and sort of empty her mind. She doesn't want to do anything that's going to make even a gentle noise. So she would probably pass that pretty quietly. Probably for the last hour, she'd assume that any threat of any, if she hasn't seen any rock shenanigans, she might actually wake Vil up and just say, I didn't think you'd want to miss out on party duties, so you want to take the last hour of watch with me?
He sort of looks a little bleary-eyed at you, and no, that's good. I should do something.
Just to get you in the habit.
You can see just looking at him. His mind is elsewhere. Like he is sort of like looking from side to side and whatever, but he's looking without seeing right now.
I don't think she's gonna press him if he seems preoccupied. I mean, she kind of assumes that he's got a lot of stuff to deal with his entire clan dying, and having to reform a new life. So she'll just kind of keep a gentle eye on him, make sure he doesn't look too troubled, but I think she would just, she might offer him a little snack, a little pre-breakfast to get him through, but yeah.
He sort of like kind of shakes his head a little bit when you ask him. Kind of takes him a second to register, but he's happy to take a little snack and thanks. It's quite nice actually.
Yeah, it's a bit of the chipmunk I caught last week. Just the last bit.
It's been a long time since I've had chipmunk.
Yeah. I was saving it for our last day getting out of here. But I think you're more in need than me. Everybody needs a bit of pick-me-up chipmunk now and again.
I mean, he smiles, and it, probably the first time you've seen a a relatively carefree smile. I managed to cut through some of his malaise, just the teensiest bit more composed, and with it than he did. Well, a lot more composed than he did when the Bahir arrived. But when you first sort of got him traveling with you, he's slowly seems to be getting to a more normalish state.
And she also drops in, listen, I know it's hard traveling with a couple of these guys, but really don't worry about them. Even if they did get nasty, I would not let that happen. But they're not going to. For all their, bark, they don't have so much bite. So
if you're sure,
I'm sure. I keep a close eye on them.
that so Varys is very he's a lot.
Yes, he is. He and Bader are soldiers by trade, so they've lived a different life where you show encouragement in a more forceful manner, and you don't show much softness. So you have to try and make allowances for that. It's not easy though, because sometimes I feel like they just do it because they want to.
Yeah, I could see that. And he goes back to his very poor attempt at looking like he's on watch. You do not see any signs of elemental activity for the rest of your watch.
At the end of my watch, I just gently rouse everybody and kick Silverius.
In the hip.
Yeah, okay, in the hip.
I was gonna say she should aim right for his nose.
I thought about a number of better options, but I decided the hip was where we were going.
He reflect his reflexes. He like grabs you by the ankle real quick, and his head whips and looks at you, and then he lets you go.
My reflex
stands up in front of you and just kind of like glares at you.
Time to wake up, Silverius.
Right.
Let's get back to the surface.
He wakes up and just. You actually see kind of a smile on his face, and he makes his way over to Krelth and just kind of like, without much hesitation, starts getting Krelth ready while the others are doing their things.
Okay, so you pack up camp, hitch Krelth back up to the wagon.
He kind of bosses Vil around too to help him out.
Vil, pretty quick to fall in line, and is eager to get stuff done. Budor, are you going to be leading the way again?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you keep just going from little blue flame candle to blue flame candle. A couple of times the road opens up again, and you go through these large caves that stretch out even beyond Bador's vision. Other times the path gets very narrow, and it's almost too tight for Krelth and his cart to sneak through. Just about enough room. And you can actually see in some areas where someone has like chiseled away at the wall to make it just that little bit wider in those narrow sections. Later in the day, you kind of take a little pause for lunch, and then Bador, you think that you must be getting close to where you fought the bullet. And soon enough, you come across a familiar looking area. You see it it has that sort of 3-tier thing going on. Let's have everyone please roll a percentile dice.
Not expecting that one.
No, that's a
25.
95.
90.
57.
47.
After a little while, you come across the site and you start looking around, trying to find many pounds worth of bullet scales, hide, chitin, whatever we want to call it. And it takes you guys a little bit like going through before you find this big stack of now kind of gross smelling. Didn't smell great in the first place. Now you kind of got a little bit of gross, like on the inside edge. It's not very pleasant, but I'm trying to remember how many pounds it was. Gosh, it's quite a lot of pounds worth of this bullet. There's some flies buzzing around. But it is there. And you are able to retrieve it. But I'm gonna tell you, that was a little close.
To finding it?
there were 2 people who rolled in the like 90 or above. So it would be interesting to see what happened if 3 people did, for instance. But we'll never know.
I don't know what that means, but which one's good, which one's bad.
Right.
Indeed.
Well, then I guess it gets put on the cart.
Yeah, I mean, now it takes like I don't know, half an hour or so of heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, poor old Kraelf is moving a little slower.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he is loaded up with this very thick, very solid bullet armor, and you can continue making your way. You actually are able to make decent time. You think, even with Kraelf weighed down, he is a sturdy beast. Bardo, make me another survival check, please.
Sure.
As you get to the end of another day of trudging in the dark. Well, mostly dark.
15.
Okay. You don't find anything quite as good as last night. But there is an area where the road widens. You can set up another half decent camp.
So I'm going to do my same primeval awareness again.
Okay. You go through the same ritual. Kind of focus. Clear your mind a little bit. Not one thing.
Yeah, I'll say I don't sense anything. Not to say there isn't something in the area, but nothing that I can. Nothing that pinged me.
We
You go
should
with the same. Oh,
we
sorry.
should keep an eye out at least for scavengers, because this creature's putting off a lot of smell. It could draw things. So there's just general beasts and such. We should at least stay wary.
Savarius kind of looks at Claire.
Isn't there something you can do about that?
Hmm?
The smells coming from this corpse.
Oh, I mean, I can make it go away for like 5 minutes.
That might not work.
Okay. Are you doing this the same same pattern as last night?
I suppose so.
If nobody objects.
Any conversation, Bud or cassette?
I do the exact same thing as last night.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Claire, Silverius, anything for you guys?
Probably not. I think just general weariness is setting in. Again, just traveling for so long in a row in such a dark environment with no let up, I think is just taking its toll on her.
As they're sitting on watch, he kind of like peeks over and sees that she's a little less than her normal. Usually I would say like self. He just says, kind of like while staring off,
Can't say the caves are getting to you, are they?
It's just so dark. I'm more of a hill dwarf, and while the dark doesn't bother me so bad, I do miss the sun.
I actually agree. This cave is much more than I would say we expected. Feels like we've been down here for far too long.
I know it's only been days, but it does feel like months. But I will agree. I feel like we've encountered more down here than even remotely what we were offered for pay. I mean, I'm not greedy, but I don't know, just encountering a dragon and then everything else has just been, it's been a lot.
Certainly has. Not sure we should do more business with Roriver. We have other tasks to accomplish anyways. However, perhaps he may be useful eventually.
You might be right, but I just, it's been what, just over 2 weeks since we met, and it's just, I don't know, I could use a day or two of just peace to get my head settled.
And Silvarius's eyes kind of like squint a little bit, like he's got concern on his face.
Rest is important. And I kind of forgot, but for a moment, why we were even here. But I'm not sure how much we should take. A lot has happened in these 2 weeks. But I feel there is much more ahead of us. We can assess that on the surface. See what's changed in our absence.
The only thing that's felt good about being down here is it has actually felt a bit safer from some of the threats that we were facing up above. I haven't felt the same presence following us. I don't know if we're out of his reach, but that has been at least one good thing.
Silvarius is kind of looking around as he's saying,
And yet I wonder,
and he looks over to Claire.
if he still is watching. We have no way of truly knowing.
No, and I don't think we made as much progress as we were hoping to visiting Badger Down on that subject.
They felt more like connections and, well, at least the food was good.
She just kind of nods and chuckles.
He pulls out a piece of his Rothe rib that he still has, being the giant rib that it is, and kind of tears off a piece, and he sort of extends it over to Claire, offering if she wants to take a piece.
She tries to make her nose not wrinkle, but is not very successful. Has that been in your pocket the whole time?
As he's chewing on a piece of meat.
Why?
No reason, but I'm plenty full on my rations. I'll pass, thank you.
Very well then.
He starts kind of like ungracefully gnawing on the bone.
Yeah, and Claire just kind of tucks her knees up and puts her chin on her knees and just, yeah, kind of passes the rest of the watch quietly.
Righto. And you see Eska sort of in trance mode off to the side, and you can go and wake her up or snap her out of it, however you see fit.
Before Silvarius can get to her, Claire will go over and gently shake Eska on the shoulder.
Well, you saved me a spell slot at least. Eska looks a lot more willing to be friendly in this situation.
And Eska, you settle back down into your sort of, it's still almost meditative state, but an alert one this time. As you keep an eye out. Bill actually wakes up a little earlier this morning.
I think she'll, like, halfway through, she'll, like, just check through her possessions, make sure everything is tidy, and come across the like all the assorted gems that she picked out of the dragon hoard. And it's sort of, she'd kind of like half forgotten about them really, but as she kind of picks them out, she sort of gets intrigued by them, and she kind of lays them out on the rock in front of her, and she sorts them into all the same colors of the different ones. And then she spends a good half hour like furiously polishing them to as perfect a shine as she can, and just sort of like hunched over them, and then at the end of that time very carefully scoops them back up, places them back in the pouch, and just kind of tucks that pouch away deep.
Eventually you see the others start to stir. There is a realization as you're sort of like packing everything up and having a little bit of rations that you should be seeing the sun again soon. For 5 of your party, that puts a little spring in the step. I imagine there's a little bit of back and forth about the fact that the sun should be soon, and it's pretty easy to see that Vil is a little nervous about being topside again. He knows that this is the path he's chosen, so he's with you for now. Bardur, as you lead the way, a little bit after lunchtime, you see it's tricky. You initially feel like it's just a trick of the light. You still see blue candles up ahead, but you realize that you're seeing stuff with slight hints of color normally again, away from the candlelight. You realize that you must be getting close to the entrance. Or, in this case, the exit.
I'll let everybody know that we're getting close.
Make a perception roll for me. In fact, everybody make a perception roll.
We're just only using my worst stat all night. Is that what we're gonna do?
Yeah, pretty much.
22.
I want to just pick up a rock so I can roll strength for something. 13.
11.
14.
14.
14 for Vil. Bardur. You, as you're looking and listening, and you feel a little bit of a little bit more spring in your step. You're ready to sniff fresh air. Even you have found this experience a little draining, in part because of the company. You listen, and you hear sounds a little bit like rain.
Rain.
Slowly, the tunnel continues to get lighter, and eventually you can see a large sort of shaft of light down into the cave, indicating where the road leads up above ground. It becomes pretty clear pretty quickly that the sunny day you so longed for has rather cruelly been taken from you by A pretty typical autumnal storm.
Eska breaks into a run. As soon as the light changes enough, she breaks into a run.
Okay. Make a dexterity check for me. Just straight dexterity.
19.
Okay. You nearly trip a couple of times. It's obviously not a very smooth surface, but you head up the slope, and you don't even get halfway before you feel the rain start to hit your face. A delightful sense of well-being for you as you come out from the cave.
I think she's going to do a little bit of a Kevin Costner and Robin Hood. She's just going to get down on the ground and roll around.
You come out. The rain is pretty aggressive, to be honest. There's a decent wind whipping up as well. But for the first time in over a week, there is sky above you and dirt. Real proper good soil. None of that rocky nonsense at your feet. I assume the rest of you follow out slowly.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm going back.
You see Krailth struggling a little bit, but he how's he do? Hey, he does all right. He loses his footing a little bit on the slick rock. Thankfully, the cart was well constructed as the cargo shifts, but he manages to get up the slope, and his thick fur mats quickly with the water. And once you get onto the surface, it's weird. You get your first real look at Vil in real good quality light, and you can see he looks so young and very, very out of his element here. His orange hair is sort of stuck to the side of his face a little bit, and he looks a little nervous, and he turns to you and says, "So, where next?"
The city.
That's what I thought you were going to say. And he just sort of takes a couple of measured breaths. All right, let's do it.
I'll stop and just kind of look around and be like, "Yeah, you think the kobolds will take him?"
Kobolds?
Is Badu being serious, or is he messing with him? I can't tell.
I mean,
Hold on.
make a perception check.
Vil cannot tell either.
I mean, I'm not really smiling.
I mean, that'd be preferable to a demonic spawn.
I don't know. Have you met kobolds? They're pretty annoying.
Not really.
I say you see how the city is first.
Okay. I guess in that case, lead on.
How far are we from the
Sure.
city?
How
I've
was-
forgotten.
Still about a half day,
Okay.
but you can get there at or maybe before nightfall.
The good look at Vil again.
Mhm.
He he's full orc, right?
Yeah, as far as you can tell.
Okay. But he's got relatively nice clothing on.
Yeah, I mean, you think he kind of looted that from the stash that the orcs had been pilfering. You found some other nice items in the little chests. They don't look like they're quite tailored to him or anything. But they are a relatively nice design. Yeah.
With my oh gosh, here's a history check. Would I know how orcs would be handled in Delzimmer?
I actually don't think you would, for the simple reason that you doubt there would be many orcs who would go to Delzimmer. I mean, you off the top of your head, you know of Gim, who is presumably half orc. The bucket of blood, though. I'm sure there's plenty of people who think he might be a little bit heavier than half. You don't think there's probably been that many orcs who have just walked into town?
I'll tell everybody that I'm not sure how well he'll be accepted in town.
I mean, they've mostly accepted Silverius. It can't be any worse than that.
Of course they have accepted me.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I would say we just keep an eye out for him when we get to town, see how people are, and you know, we can always just claim he's half orc. If that makes people feel better.
He could potentially make it as a half orc.
Potentially.
I've not seen many orcs, but if they're all as stylish as this, I mean, he should be fine.
I mean, he's a little on the scrawny side,
Mhm.
Which may help your case. He almost looks a bit scrawny for some of the half orcs you've seen, and there's not many down in Delzimmer at least.
Oh, okay. And with all that mental math going on in my brain, I'll just kind of shrug and be like, all right, we'll see what happens.
All right. So, onward you trudge in the rain. It actually gets a little heavier at times. There's distant sound of thunder, sort of like off to the north. And as you look, you can see the clouds do look a little darker and grimmer over there. Most of you don't seem to care. Having fresh air and open, albeit grey skies, is very welcome. A few hours pass as the sky starts getting dark in a sort of a sunset-y kind of way. There's no great sunset, unfortunately, when it does start to get dark. Eventually, you see the towers of Delzimmer start to appear on the horizon, and you see the East Gate approaching. As you draw near to Delzimmer, that is where we will end for the night.
We are back.
And we got through another day. So it's actually day, 19?
Day 19. We got through 2 days tonight.
I know. We are flying.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody. I think that would probably be... We'll just put that down as a very close call, shall we, and move on. We'll pick up next time with Hand of Aegis as they return to Delzimmer after about a week underground and traveling and so on. They are now back above ground and ready. We'll see you next time for more Fables from the Pickled Quipper. Goodbye.